Hello, my customer success friends. Irit Ezips here from CSM Practice. Today I have with me Rahul
Parikh.
Parikh from Dynamic Signal, Senior VP of Global
Success and Services.
Success and Services. I'm gonna kill myself later. The reason I was very excited to bring Rahul with me to this conversation today is because when you're a startup company, you have a lot of customer success management teams that are essentially sort of like a unicorn CSM. They do everything. They do the support, they do the onboarding, they do the customer success, everything. And so Rahul is in a very unique position where he transitions the team from having this unicorn status to something that's much more mature framework. And I wanted to have him share today, how do you take that team and transition through it, and how do you address change management from both internal perspective as well as re-educating the customers?
In my opinion, it's a natural progression of software company. As a software company, to be able to scale, it's really important to specialize roles.
Specialization is really key. And it's very common when companies grow to start specializing the customer success roles. When you just joined Dynamic Signal, what was a typical day in a customer success manager's life?
In the morning you may come in and work with a client on implementation issues. There could be some configuration things that you need to do with the product. Maybe there's some integration things that need to get done. In the afternoon, you might be answering support tickets from another customer. It requires a different function in the skill set. So it's really difficult to do all of those things and do them all really well. So
what was the impact? Why was it important? I mean, I get that it's difficult,
Sure.
but why is it important to then separate it and specialize it at a certain point?
Yeah. So say, for example, you're a customer success manager and you're asked to implement the solution. And you think about how the customer is then perceiving you. They're perceiving you as the product expert, the person who can configure the product, but not necessarily the trusted advisor or the business expert. So it's really challenging for those individuals to make that leap from being the implementer to the trusted advisor. So by separating those roles, you've given folks on the team the opportunity to do really well at what they're doing and be perceived by the customers being the best at what they do.
Got it. And how do you transition a team like that? You already how many are on your team right now?
So it's about 35 people on the team right now.
35 people. And so you get a team of
Sure.
35 people, they're doing everything. How do you break the news? You know what, as of today, you're only doing support, or you're only doing the QBR stuff.
It's not an easy thing to do. When you're working for a pre-IPO company, the type of people that generally are attracted to these people are entrepreneurial people who are willing
generalists.
to take risks and take challenges. And so the most important thing is to explain why you're doing what you're doing. So to spend time to explain the strategy, why it's important to make these changes, the impacts on the customer most importantly, but also what are the internal impacts on the company. How can we grow and scale? How can we expand internationally? How can we do all these things if we're not training folks on roles and responsibilities?
So first thing, explain why, and that's really the enrollment conversation internally to just embrace the change. And so how did you handle it from a framework perspective?
Sure.
What did you separate? What were the specialized roles that you've created?
Well, so we basically created 4 specialized teams. So customer success managers, who you can think of are the folks that become the trusted advisors, the voice of the customer within Dynamic Signal. They're responsible for retention and also identifying expansion opportunities. We have the professional services team, and they are responsible for ensuring that the customer has a fantastic experience during launch. They're focused on reducing that time to value and making sure that the customer is able to use the application as quickly and in a meaningful way as possible. You have the customer support team, and they're responsible for answering any general product questions. If there are any issues or challenges with the product they want to report, if there are enhancement requests, it's the vehicle and avenue to do that. We've also created a community in customer support so people can self-resolve issues. So things like that. And then we have a community enablement team. So these individuals work with our champions and our customers, our partners, and our internal folks to teach them about best practices in our world of internal communications, as well as with Dynamic Signal in our product as well.
Now, did you end up hiring any new team members in order to facilitate this transition?
So I always value first looking internally.
Yeah.
So wherever there are skill set gaps, then I start looking externally.
There's 2 outcomes or 2 main tips that come out of this conversation. Sounds like if any of you are going through this transition as well, is have an enrollment conversation, talk about the why, create opportunities to have open discussions with a co-founder, with your team leaders, and have a thoughtful understanding of who might be the right person for any kind of new specialized roles that you're creating. And you should consider those who have a really good knowledge of your product and have been in your company, so that they can get these opportunities to get promoted. And
yeah, I think that's great. There's one more thing I'd add. That, after you make this transformation, it's not like flipping a switch and things just change overnight. You have to have a transition period. And everybody has to understand that during that transition period, there's going to be a little bit of organized chaos.
Yeah.
And it's really important to prepare people for that, because they may not be used to it.
Yeah. Thank you so much
thank you.
for doing this with me
Absolutely.
today. I've learned a lot. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Feel free to connect with Rahul on Twitter or on LinkedIn and send him questions. I hope that's okay.
Yeah, that's great.
Or me.